Hey there everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another LittleBigPlanet video. I previously did the LittleBig game dev series video, the pilot to that one, but I was working on part 2 of the level, and I was going to make a video on gray boxing and how to get your characters into the game. Then I ran into a few problems, but then I found a solution to a few of those problems, and I want to show you guys a little tutorial on how I figured out how to broadcast player commands to other objects in the level. I had to figure this out on my own because there are not many tutorials on the LittleBigPlanet community on how to do this. So as you can see, one thing that I've done that I will show in a future video is I've created this little Pokeball here. It's not the greatest design, I made it myself and I'm blind, so deal with it. But it is something that I can equip as a power-up. Apologies for the glitch. But as you can see, it shows up in my sack pocket. It shows up as some kind of object, but you can name that. And it's a little buggy, but as you can see, I am now holding a Pokeball. That's cool. But that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is actually broadcasting player inputs to these little circles over here. So you see, I've created some sticker panel objects because I haven't unlocked lighting yet. But what happens is whenever I press a certain button, a light will light up. If I press another button, another light will light up. And if I press another button, another light will light up. What I'm doing is I'm pressing the directional buttons to do this. And if you watch the LittleBig game dev series, I mentioned that one of the features I wanted to implement was the ability to basically call commands on Pokemon in the level. So effectively what you would do is you would go into your sack pocket, you would pull out the Pokeball for whatever Pokemon you want to spawn in, you'd press R1 to summon the Pokemon, and then as long as you have their Pokeball in your hand, you can call commands on them using the directional keys for left and right for attack and defend, respectively, and then up for the special attack. So one of the challenges I ran into was how do I broadcast those attack commands to the Pokemon? Well, I'm going to show you how to do it. Really, it can be Pokemon, it can be sackbots, it can be objects in the level that you're standing near, it can be anything. And, well, let's get into this. So I'm going to hop out of Pokemon A Friend Indeed, which is the level that I'm creating in that series, and I'm going to create a new one to show you guys how to do it from scratch. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into a new level. And what we need is first and foremost, we need a sack pot. We can find that under creatures. Alright, spawn the little guy in. And I'm going to immediately tweak him. And then I'm going to make sure that he copies his costume from the player. If I can remember how to do that. Oh yeah, copy form. And that way you can be odd sock and whatnot. Alright, so that copies, or that gets the sackbot to copy the player, which is awesome. Now let him fall to the floor. I'm very, very, very red right now. That's not what I want to be. So I'm going to switch my costume over to Ash Ketchum. There we go. As you can see, I'm now Ash Ketchum, which is great. But that's not exactly... Actually, there's a bug. Wash costume. Now I'm Ash Ketchum. Anyway, I might have even broken the Ash costume. Oh well. It doesn't matter. What we effectively have now is a Sackbot, which is another Sackboy. He's a robot. But we're gonna program him. We're gonna program him to be a custom character. And the way we do this is we're going to start by adding a controlinator to his circuit board. And you can find controlinators under advanced logic right here. Not a movinator, a controlinator. So with the controlinator, we're going to go into it, and we're gonna have it follow. We're gonna have it act as a receiver, and we're gonna receive from the player, and we're gonna make sure that we override the sackbot. That's enough to get the character following us, or following our every command. So when we amp, he amps, and that's awesome. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually set this up as a custom character. And the way we do that is we go into our global settings, and under characters there's going to be a little capture icon that looks a lot like the same thing you'd see in your goodies bag when you want to capture something. And we're gonna make sure the selection box is around our character and nothing else. And then you can feel free to name the character whatever you want. In this level, I have some kind of object. I'm going to name him Ash, because he's dressed up as Ash Ketchum. But it really doesn't matter. Anyway, that character has been renamed as Ash. I believe so. Oh yeah, okay. And the next thing we need to do to get the character to spawn in the level is go into our level start, and it's going to allow us to select a character to start as. Make sure you select Ash. If we change to play mode, we should see that absolutely nothing happened. We're still Sackboy. But that other character is following us. We're gonna switch back to create mode. And now we're gonna create that same object that I created in the other level. I'm going to go into my goodies bag, and I'm going to create a new material. Basic cardboard with static physics. Square, and I'm going to make sure that I have the big grid enabled. Alright, create enough space to hold the lights that I'm going to add to it. Now we're going to come down to sticker panel and add some circles. Once again, static physics, circle. This is where I will go into medium grid. Alright, and then I'm going to create 1, 2, 3, and 4 this time around. Because I'm going to show you guys how directional buttons work. And so then we're going to grab a microchip and we're going to place it on the cardboard. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to add a selector to it with 4 ports. And wire up the outputs to the respective sticker panels. So output 4 goes to sticker panel 4. As you can see, it turns black when we do that. That's because it has no power. And this one's going to stay white when we hook it up, because the selector is currently set to port number 1. But we're going to change that. The next thing that we need are tag sensors, and we need one tag sensor for each input that we want on our selector. I probably shouldn't have added them in bulk. There we go. So the important things that we do want to set here is we want to make sure that there's no minimum distance, which means that you have to be this far away for it to trigger. We want to make sure that our maximum distance is something sensible for the level. For example, this might be a door that we want to open with a command, and we don't want the door to open unless the player is standing right next to it. So you would set the radius to something sensible to where the player would be next to the device that you would want to interact with. But in this case, I'm going to set it to 100 instead of 100 units. Right, I'm going to go 80, which is what I used for the other level. And this means that Sackboy needs to be 80 units away from this tag sensor for the tag sensor to trigger. And then what we want to do is we want to set the tag handle. And the way we do this is, in LittleBigPlanet, there are two types of values we have to set to give a tag a specific handle. We have to set its color, which is great. That means that so this effectively is handle 4. And then we need to set what label we have on the tag. And this is important. This isn't just for aesthetics. The label will actually let us have multiple red tags in the level that trigger different things when they're activated. And so you're going to want to create a new label in here with whatever action you would want to perform. So in this case, I'm going to do light 1. And then assign the tag label to this tag. And this means that this tag will, or this sensor will only sense a red tag with the label of light 1, which is important. And you'll want to duplicate this tag 4 times, or however many times you have an input. Since the selector has 4 ports on it, I'm going to have 4 tags. And we're going to want to go into it and make sure that our labels are set accordingly. Light 2. Oops. And then this is going to be light 4. Oh, and I gotta make sure that I actually did apply those labels. And I did. So what does this mean? Well, effectively this means, well, first of all, we gotta hook the tags up. But what does this mean? What we're doing is we're setting up a broadcast system. And that means that we can get multiple microchips to communicate with each other. What we're also doing is we're allowing these microchips to have to be within a certain range of each other in order to communicate with each other. And what this is also doing is, oh, I'm dumb. Forgo the selector. We don't need the selector. I was thinking of something else that needed it. Just wire up your tags directly to whatever you want them to control. The selector is to allow an input to stay connected, even when its power is lost. And that's going to be important for the other half of this tutorial. My bad. But either way, what we're effectively doing is we're making a broadcast system that allows one microchip to send commands to another microchip. And those two microchips, because we're using tag sensors, need to be near each other in order for them to communicate. Which is effectively what we're doing is we're doing the LittleBigPlanet equivalent of Bluetooth. Which is great. And it's exactly what we need. So we've wired our tag sensors up to our 4 different lights. But how do we trigger them? Well, we need to go into our character here. And we're going to go into his controlinator. And what we need to do... Oh, whoops. I'm a little bit finicky when it comes to LittleBigPlanet. So we're going to go into his controlinator, and we're going to have a look at the directional buttons. Now, theoretically, you could use any button you want. For example, the face buttons have their own direct outputs. But I'm doing directional buttons because it's the way, or it's what I did in the game end, or in the LittleBig game dev level. And directional buttons are like analog sticks in that they have directional outputs, which means that you can't exactly get a direct output from the up directional pad. You can only get up and down. And the way we get around that is we use directional splitters, which are what these are. And they take an input that's directional, and they split it to its individual positive and negative components. And that's important because we are going to feed these into a selector and an XOR gate. So we're going to wire up the up and down output to the to the first directional splitter here. We're going to wire the left and right into the second one. So effectively, we've split the directional pad of the PlayStation controller into 4 different outputs that we can use individually, instead of just 2 directional outputs, which is great. The next thing that we need, and this is important to make sure that only one output gets triggered at a time, is we need a 4-port XOR gate. And what this does is it's going to output if and only if one of these outputs is true or has power. So we're going to wire up each direction to each port on the XOR gate. And like I said, this is different from an OR gate, where an OR gate will allow you to have multiple outputs or multiple inputs on it at once, but this will only let you have one. It'll shut off if you have more than one. Alright, so that's our XOR gate setup. And then what we're going to need is we're going to need that selector that we accidentally placed before. And again, it needs to be 4 ports. Alright, so we're going to wire up the positive and negative of the vertical directional pad to the port 1 and port 2 of the selector. And then we're going to wire up the positive and negative of the left and right to port 3 and 4 of the selector. And that should work just fine. When we press directional buttons, what'll happen is first the game will set the port of the selector based on the directional button we pressed, and then it'll send a signal to this to this XOR gate, which is going to activate. What do we do next? Well, this is where the tricky part comes in, because what we need to do is we need to create some sort of pulse when the directional button is pressed. That way, it doesn't stay stuck on. So what we're going to do to facilitate that is we're going to create 4 AND gates, because we have 4 outputs. And what we're going to do is we're going to wire each output port of the selector into the first port of its respective AND gate. So port 1 of the selector goes into port 1 of AND gate 1. Port 2 into port 1 of AND gate 2. Port 3 into port 1 of AND gate 3. And port 4 into port 1 of AND gate 4. And then, this is where the XOR gate comes in. We wire this output into all port 2 AND gates. So, port 2 of AND gate 4, port 2 of AND gate 3, port 2 of AND gate 2, and port 2 of AND gate 1. So when we press the button, it's going to first select the port on the selector, and then that's going to feed into port 1 of whatever AND gate we want to output to. And then it's going to fire the OR gate, or the XOR gate, which, when a button is pressed, is going to fire port 2 of all AND gates. And so the only AND gate that will fire is the one that's selected by the selector. And this is where things get a lot easier. What we're going to do now is we're going to take out a tag. Not a tag sensor, but a tag. And we're going to go ahead and place 4 of them, lined up with our AND gates. And now we're going to take AND gate 1, wire it into tag 1, AND gate 2 into tag 2, AND gate 3 into tag 3, and AND gate 4 into tag 4. Next, we're going to go into each tag and set their handles respectively. So, we want the up arrow to control light 1, so we're going to set it to red, and set its label to light 1. Then we're going to do the same thing for tag 2, but use red and light 2. And we're going to do tag 3. And tag 4. I have to apologize for background noise. People don't respect the fact that I record videos. There might not even be background noise. I don't know. Either way, this is pretty convoluted, but it's simple if you understand the game mechanics of LittleBigPlanet. So what we have is we split the up and down signals into their respective directions. So if we press up, then the positive value is going to send a signal. If we press down, and then a negative value is going to send a signal. And then we wire these into the selector, which is going to select one of these AND gates. It's going to fire a signal to them. And then, because the selector always sends at least one output, we're going to use these AND gates to effectively make it so that the tag itself is not activated until we actually do push a button. Because as you can see, port 1 is sending an output signal. It's lit up right now. But the AND gate is turned off. If we were to wire this directly to the tag, you'll notice that one of our lights is now turned on, which is not ideal. That's not great. So we need to wire this into the AND gate. That way, when we actually do press a button, that's what's going to send the pulse. And I'm getting distracted by background noise. Alright, so that's effectively the controlling done. But we need to actually update our character now in the level because we've modified his abilities. So I'm going to take these lights and I'm going to make sure that I have them moved up. And I'm going to glue them. I'm getting really agitated by the background noise. My dog keeps barking at random things outside that he shouldn't be barking at. But you know what? I'm playing LittleBigPlanet, so I can't complain. Alright, so I'm going to move this up, and then I'm going to go into the global settings, and I'm going to capture a character, and I'm going to capture our Pokemon. Oh, whoops, I did that wrong. So I'm going to delete some kind of object. What I meant to do is actually... so delete, yes. What I meant to do is I meant to go into Ash, and select Recapture. That'll allow you to update Ash's data. And then we can go in and we can delete the Sackbot, because we've captured him as a character. So go ahead and do that. And switch to play mode. And the reason we need to switch to play mode is because we're overriding directional keys, which in create mode kind of gets a little funky, and I realized that I messed something up. I need to move those lights back down so that we can see them. Alright, so we're standing in front of these lights. We are in range. And if we press an up arrow, or an up button, or the up button I should say, you'll notice that that light turns on. If we press the down button, that light turns on. Right and left. We can't press 2 at a time. It did open, or it did activate for a split second, which is okay for some games. But as you can see, when I press 2, there is no N key rollover, so it kind of cancelled. And that's ideal for my Pokemon game. I don't want you calling 2 moves at the same time, so that's a bug fix right there. Either way, hope you guys know, or I hope you guys found that interesting, being able to actually go in, and I noticed that I'm able to walk through that object. That should not be a thing. Either way, hope you guys found it interesting that I am able to broadcast controls to other objects in the level. Now, one thing to note is that if we walk out of range of that, of those lights, now I won't be able to demo this because I don't have a camera, but if I walk out of range of those lights, I can't trigger them. I'm way out of range. They're not on camera, and that's good for dynamic thermometer levels as well, so that they don't stay loaded in. But that's effectively the Bluetooth of LittleBigPlanet, being able to press a button on your controller as Sackboy and have that button do something with an object that you're standing near, which is really awesome. Again, this could be an object, it could be a Sackbot, it could be anything. Let your imagination go wild. Anyway, as always, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.